consulta del doctor Escarabajo.
La consulta del doctor Escarabajo.
La consulta del doctor Escarabajo, dígame.
La consulta del doctor Escarabajo.
La consulta del doctor Escarabajo.
La consulta del doctor Escarabajo.
La consulta
La
del doctor
consulta del doctor Escarabajo.
La consulta del doctor Escarabajo.
I started music when I was about 6 years old. My mother is a opera singer. She's a professor and a soprano with a long career at the Hungarian State Opera. Currently, she's a teacher at the Liszt Academy. My sister is a jazz singer in Hungary. I am from Hungary. I grew up in Budapest. And I did my training at the Liszt Academy in Budapest. Then I went with a scholarship to Switzerland, to Geneva, to study with Leonard Rogue and Thomas Friedli on the clarinet. And finally, I went to the United States to study at the Oberlin Conservatory in Ohio and did my doctorate at Yale University. I started as a pianist and then started to play clarinet. As a clarinetist, we did a lot of transcriptions of Bach's organ works, and that prompted me to pick up the organ. I wanted to play those pieces that we transcribed for the clarinet quintet. I had a clarinet quintet in high school all the way into the Liszt Academy, and we did a lot of these transcriptions of Bach's works, including the Passacaglia and Fugue BWV 582 for clarinet quintet, and I wanted to play it on the organ. I read Bach's biography that he played many instruments, but his main instrument was the organ. So really those two things, playing Bach's works on the clarinet quintet and reading about Bach being able to play multiple instruments but specializing in organ, prompted me to pick up the organ as my main instrument. But I still play the clarinet. Recently I acquired a Baroque clarinet, and I do play chamber music on the clarinet. I do play some solo repertoire. I compose for the clarinet. Just completed a piece for clarinet and organ, so I do keep up a little bit of clarinet playing, but obviously my main instrument is the organ. I've always wanted to do multiple things, and so far my career has revolved around three main foci: composition, performance, and church music. And I feel very fortunate that in each of those areas I have had great support and great opportunities, including the reconstruction of including the reconstruction of Bach's St. Mark's Passion last year at the church, which touches on two of these areas, composition and church music. The recording of the complete organ works by Johann Sebastian Bach, which which touches upon my career as a concert organist and recording artist, and the reconstruction of the organ at St. Peter's Church after a flood that was completed in 2023, resulting in a wonderful and almost new organ. So I'm very fortunate. I feel grateful to have been able to do all these things, performance, composition, and church music in my career. As a composer, I feel very fortunate to have had those opportunities with wonderful performers and the Yale ensembles. When I was a doctoral student at Yale University, we had some of the best musicians perform our works, and subsequently in New York City we had great musicians that performed my work at St. Peter's. I work a lot with early musicians. I had an ensemble in Boston called Antico Moderno that performed modern works on old instruments, and that's been sort of my particular interest in working with musicians, early musicians, to harvest their creativity that is needed for early music as well as for modern music, and use that creativity to kind of have a fresh breath into my own works, into new works. So that really shaped my career as a composer, and working with orchestras such as the Boston Modern Orchestra Project, the Hungarian Philharmonia, and the Turku Symphony coming up next year, the St. Thomas Choir. It's just, I feel very fortunate to have those experiences in my life, and that those have been some of the most fulfilling, rewarding times as a composer in my life, having heard my music performed by such great ensembles. A world without Baroque music or Bach's music would certainly be a different world. I can't even imagine that world, and I don't want to imagine that world, because Bach in particular has such a profound influence on my life, on my purpose in life, that if that had been taken away from me, I don't know what I would replace it with. Probably I wouldn't be a musician, I would do something else. Perhaps the most challenging work that we had to record in my composition career was the third movement of the Existentia of my three-movement work, Existentia, on the poem by Sándor Vörös, with the Boston Modern Orchestra Project. And that's partly because I kind of recycled an older work, and I wanted to use that work as the end of that composition, and I had my mother voice dubbed over it, so it involved a lot of different locations and trying to match different recordings. And I wish I had just one session and not having to deal with multiple sessions and trying to match recordings together. But I'm very happy with that CD, and that was published in 2016, I believe, by Hungaroton. It's called Existentia. I encourage you to check this recording out on Naxos, a library or iTunes or Amazon, you can listen to it. And I particularly like the third movement of the triple concerto of my triple concerto for harp, cymbalum, Hungarian percussion instrument, and guitar, which I've included as an MP3 with this interview. Apart from technique and position, I would say a musician should have good programming, a solo recitalist especially, to have something for everybody on the program, including some lighter pieces that appeal to audiences that are perhaps not so sophisticated or not used to counterpoint or really advanced forms and harmonies, and have pieces that are perhaps not so familiar, a little bit challenging for the audience. I've always tried to incorporate pieces by lesser known composers, contemporary pieces, and perhaps some popular tunes. In my upcoming concert in SEGOVIA, I've included some Hungarian dances from the 17th, 18th centuries, which are really simple tunes and are great fun to play and great fun to listen to. So I think the programming is very important. The instrument itself is very important, and in the case of the organ in particular, the sound of the instrument is the first thing that touches the audience. So if the sound is not great, then the musician can do whatever they want, but it will not go through that barrier of that sound. So in the case of organ music, the organ builder who originally constructed the instrument has almost like a partner-like relationship with the interpreter. The sound that the organ makes and how it relates to the building is it's of primary importance, and the organist, the interpreter, will have that at his disposal to do musical expression. And in a case of historic organs like the one in Segovia Cathedral, that beautiful historic instrument, will certainly touch the listener. So as Johann Sebastian Bach said, he said that the organ is the easiest instrument to play because you just have to press the right key at the right time. And it may be so in the case of a great instrument where the sound is sort of ready-made. It's not the case with a singer or a woodwind instrument like the clarinet I play. You always have to work on the sound. The organists are a little bit spoiled to have an instrument where somebody else has worked out the sound ahead of the time. I think the most important difference between light or popular musicians and classical musicians is like popular musicians are a lot more focused on promoting themselves and their music, versus classical musicians tend to focus on their technique and perfecting their art more, and often realize that nobody cares about that unless they promote themselves. So some of them come to the realization a little bit too late to promote themselves and have a career as opposed to practicing all day. And that's kind of a personality difference, I think. People who tend to really be a little bit more introverted, they tend to promote themselves less. Even within the classical music community, there are people who tend to be more extroverted, and they like to promote themselves. And introverts, it's not necessarily correlating with the quality of their music making. It's just a personality difference. And I think in classical music there are a lot more introverted types than in popular music. You wouldn't touch popular music if you were as an interpreter, if you were introverted. You necessarily have to be that type of personality to do popular music. Versus in classical music, you are perfectly fine being an introvert and playing in an orchestra, playing in an ensemble, and do a fine career being an introvert. So I think the difference is a personality type, where classical musicians tend to include more of the introverted types. How did the pandemic affect my career as a musician? Well, I've had many projects during the pandemic, including the Bach project that I am currently finishing up. It consists of 13 recitals featuring the entire organ works by Bach, which Christoph Wolff designed for a concert hall in Japan, the Izumi Hall in Osaka, which I was part of in 2018. But I am very excited about finishing that project, 4 years in the making. But the pandemic was obviously not a great time. The church was closed, we couldn't worship, we couldn't sing, the choir was on hold. So it's a time that I don't really want to remember, but something good came out of it. The recordings, I have become much better at recording myself, doing videos, video editing. My YouTube channel has really grown during the pandemic. I have closer to 20,000 subscribers, which is not a great number, but it's grown from around 2,000 during the pandemic. So it's been great in terms of exposure. I've been getting a lot of concerts out of my YouTube channel, some great recordings up there, historic organs. It's a channel that features a lot of historic organs, and that's one of the things that I'm grateful for, the exposure that I was able to get out of that channel when I had the time to edit those videos during the pandemic. I'm moving to Philadelphia in September, so I'm starting a new job, a new church position, and I'm currently a little bit stressed about moving my furniture, my instruments right before September, but I'm very excited to start a new position with a professional choir and a concert series at the First Presbyterian Church in Philadelphia. I've some upcoming concerts. I'm really excited about going to Spain again this summer. The first time I was in Spain was for an organ festival near Palencia, Carrión de los Condes, as part of the S.XVII organ festival there. And I'm very excited to return to Spain this summer, next week. After that, I'm going to Sweden for a concert in August. In Romania, I'm playing a concert, historic organ in Brașov. And in September, returning to the United States and starting a new life in Philadelphia. Next year, I'm premiering my 4th organ concerto with the Turku Symphony in Helsinki, in Finland, and I also have a concert in Norway. So I'm really busy starting in September. Also, I start to teach a course at Yale University. So my schedule is really busy, but I'm very excited about that.